Listen girls, it's no secret that I've been having a hard time making a bucket hat, but I had this really good idea for a bucket hat and I've never successfully made a bucket hat, so here's what I had to do. Number one, I had to prove to myself that I could make a bucket hat. Here she is. She reminds me of my grandmother, which is not a bad thing. I love my grandmother, but this is just a little too floppy and unstructured. But I did successfully make a bucket hat, so that was a positive. Then I had to prove to myself that I could make a bucket hat with some sort of pattern. Here comes bucket hat number 2. This one reminds me of Buzz Lightyear, and it's just too big and floppy, and I just think it looks weird. I have this bucket hat, which is not crochet, and I love how it fits. Beautiful. I look hot. I look like I'm in Clueless. I like this bucket hat because it has structure and it just fits my head really great and I just look really hot in it. So I needed to make a bucket hat that had the dimensions of this hat and also the structure of this hat too, that's not super flimsy. So then I made this bucket hat and it's perfect, and I finally figured out the pattern for the perfect bucket hat that looks hot. It also matches my corset. Anyway, here's the pattern. The top of the bucket hat is approximately 6 inches. The body of the hat is a little under 4 inches, and the brim of the hat is 2 inches long. Okay, so first we're going to start off with a magic circle. Then we're going to chain 1. And then we're going to single crochet 8 stitches into our magic circle. Our color pattern is the exact same as my previous video. So we're going to do 1 row of light brown, 1 row dark brown, 1 row light brown, dark brown, white, dark brown, 4 rows of light brown, a row of red, and then 4 more rows of light brown, and then repeat that one more time. Dark brown, light brown, dark brown, white, dark brown, 4 rows of light brown, 1 row of red, and then 4 more rows of light brown. And then with our remaining loose yarn, we shall tighten the circle as tight as we can. And then with our extra bit of yarn we have left over, we're just going to crochet that right into the hat. And then make sure on your 8th single crochet, you put in a stitch marker. This will be very important. And then in row 2, we are going to single crochet 2 single crochets in each stitch. So by the end of this row, we should have 16 stitches. And don't forget to replace your stitch marker. Also, you don't have to do this in the exact color pattern that I am doing. You are more than welcome to do this in 1 color or 2 different colors, whatever you desire. I'm just doing these particular colors so that this hat matches the corset that I made in my previous video. Then we're going to switch colors to our dark brown. For row 3, we are going to do 1 single crochet and then 1 increase stitch. 1 single crochet, 1 increase stitch. And how you increase is you just simply crochet 2 single crochets into 1 stitch. Side note, I do like to start each row with an increased stitch. For row 4, we are doing 2 single crochets, then 1 increased stitch. For row 5, we are doing 3 single crochets and 1 increased stitch. Row 6, we are doing 4 single crochets, 1 increased stitch. Row 7, 5 single crochets, 1 increased stitch. Row 8, 6 single crochets, 1 increased stitch. row 9, 7 single crochets, 1 increase stitch. Row 10, we are doing 8 single crochets and 1 increase stitch. In row 11, we are going to do 9 single crochets and 1 increase. And then in the last stitch of row 11, I'm going to slip stitch. Just make sure the diameter of the top of your hat is around 6 inches. Now we're going to make the body of the hat. So for row 12, we are going to back loop only, single crochet in every stitch. For row 13 to 24, we are going to single crochet in every stitch following our color pattern. That concludes the body of our hat, and now we are going to be working on the brim of our hat. So for row 25, we are going to do 4 front loop only single crochets and then 1 front loop only increase, and we're going to repeat that around the entire row. Don't forget about your stitch marker. For row 26, we are going to do 6 single crochets and 1 increase around the entire row. For row 27 and 28, we are simply going to single crochet in every stitch. For row 29, we are going to do 8 single crochets and 1 increase and repeat that around the entire row. For row 30 and 31, we are going to single crochet in every stitch. You should be ending on the dark brown color. If you're not, just add another row so that way your hat ends in the dark brown. Now it's time for some detail work. This step is totally optional, but I'll just show you how I got my vertical lines. I'm just winging it at this point. I started on the body of the hat and not the top of the hat because I wasn't sure how everything would lay out in the end. So I just started off with a slip knot, and I'm almost punch needling this into my hat. I'm punching my hook into my hat, and then I'm pulling up the yarn from the other side of my hat, and I'm doing a slip stitch technique to create these lines. I'm really trying my best to make these lines as straight as possible. There's no real right or wrong way to do this. I had to do some lines multiple times, or get rid of some stitches to make sure things were super straight. And if I'm being honest, not all the lines are completely straight, and I think that's totally fine. I'm not a machine, I'm a person, and I think it looked really good in the end. Anyway, I'm also taking into consideration that I want my 2 dark brown lines to be closer together than my red lines. So I'm kind of counting at the top of my hat. I want my brown lines to be 2 stitches apart and my red line to be 4 stitches apart, but obviously the hat keeps increasing and increasing, so that's when you just kind of have to let Jesus take the wheel and just kind of figure it out. Whatever looks best. Once I'm finished with all the lines on the body and the brim of my hat, I'm just going to connect everything to the top of my hat. So I'm going to start by connecting to the line that is on the body, and again, just trying my best to keep everything straight. And I started with all the red lines first, and then I did all the brown lines second, and I'm just trying my best to make it look good. I think it came out pretty well. There's no real rhyme or reason. I'm just trying my best, okay? Once I finished that, I weaved in so many ends. Here is the perfect bucket hat. I think it turned out really awesome, and I'm excited to do this pattern in so many more colors and color variations. I really found the exact right pattern for me and what I'm looking for in a bucket hat, and I hope you enjoy this pattern as well. Make sure to like and subscribe. Bye!